Hi, Kevin, and any other Algebra 1 student that's needing help with factoring with greatest common factor or by grouping, okay? So I'm going to show you some examples. Hopefully you can see this. So this is number 4 from worksheet number 1. And what you want to do is take out for greatest common factors, take out the biggest number. So what number, the biggest number that can go into 9, -9, 27, and -90. So the biggest number that goes into all three of those numbers, so all three of the big numbers, would be -9. So take -9 out. Then, once I do that, I take the smallest exponent. So this exponent would be 1, 2, and 3. So p to the 1 is the smallest. So again, you take the biggest number that can go into all three, and then the smallest exponent. So -9 p to the first is what we're taking out. -9 p to the first, that would cancel, right? So then you take -9 p to the first out of this, remember? So 27 divided by -9 would be -3. And then p squared is bigger by 1, so p to the 1. And then for -90 p cubed, -90 divided by -9 would be +10. And then your p3 is bigger by 2, so it'd be p squared. So this right here would be your answer. Okay, so you take out the biggest number that can go into all three of these, and then the smallest exponent. Okay, this is number 6 from the second worksheet. Same thing, greatest common factor. So what's the biggest number that can go into -12, -48, +48, and 18? So that would be 6. Because that's a negative, I'm going to take out -6. Okay. Then we have to make sure that x hits each of these. So there's an x here, there's no x here, there's an x here, and there's no x here. So we can't take an x out because x isn't attached to all of them. Now we have to see if we can take a y out, which there's a y in each term, so we can take y out. But we have to figure out the smallest exponent. So that's y to the second, y to the second, this is y to the first, and y to the first. So we can take y to the first out because you always want to do the smallest exponent. So we can take -6y out of all of these. So -12 divided by -6 gives you 2. And then you have y2 over y1, so that would be y1. And then x to the 6 just stays the same. So now -48 divided by -6 gives you +8. y2, so 2 minus 1, you get y to the first power. Okay? With this one, we'll have a -8 because 48 divided by -6, -8. The y's will cancel because it's y1 over y1. The y's will cancel and you keep your x. Then you have 18 divided by -6, which will be -3. y1 over y1, that would cancel. So this would be your answer. Okay, that's greatest common factor. You take the biggest number that can go into all 4 of these terms, and then you take the smallest exponent. Remember, you can only take the variable if each term has it. Remember, we couldn't take the x because there's not an x here or here. Okay? Now factor by grouping. You're going to group these off. See how there's 4 terms? Group them and make them 2. Make 2 groups, okay? So we have 35x cubed plus 20x squared. So for this, focus on just this one right now. We're going to take out the greatest common factor. So what's the biggest number that can go into 35 and 20? That would be 5. And then the smallest exponent is x squared, so you take x squared out. Now when we do that, we would be left with 7x, because 35 divided by 5 is 7, and then 3 minus 2 is 1, okay? 20 divided by 5 is 4, and x squared over x squared cancels out. Okay? So we finished this one. Now we're going to take the greatest common factor of this, the second group. Okay, so what's the biggest number that can go into both of those? So you have negative 21 and negative 12. We can take out negative 3. Would be the biggest number that goes into both of those. Then do both terms have an x? No. So we can't take an x out. So all we can take out is negative 3. So when we do that, negative 21 divided by negative 3 is going to give you 7x, and then negative 12 divided by negative 3 gives you positive 4. Now see how these are exactly the same? You write that like this. You just rewrite it, but only once. Those are the same. And then these right here, what you have on the outside, gets grouped together. So that would be your answer. That's how you factor by grouping. So let's try it again with these. So you group. Okay. So what's the biggest number that can go into 2 and negative 2? We'll take 2 out. And then you take, there's x on both terms, so we can definitely take an x out, and you take the smallest exponent, so we're taking 2x squared out. When we do that, right here we're left with x to the first power. You can put the first power if you want, you don't need it. Because 2 divided by 2 is 1, and then 3 minus 2 is 1, so x to the first power. Then negative 2 divided by 2 gives you minus 1, and then x squared cancels. Okay, so that one's done. Now we're going to this one. What's the biggest number you can take out with negative 3 and 3? We can take a negative 1 out. We cannot take an x because not both of these have an x. So when you take negative 1 out, we're going to be left with, negative 3, I'm sorry. Negative 3 is the biggest number we can take out. It's 3 and 3, right? We cannot take an x. So when we do that, we are left with x, because negative 3 gives you positive 1, minus 3 divided by negative 3 is 1. Now see how these are exactly the same again? You rewrite that. And then you pair up your outsides. So we have 2x squared minus 3. And that would be that answer. Okay? Let me know if you have additional questions. I hope this helped you guys. See you later.